Here's an experiment for you. Take passionate experts in human resource technology. Invite cross-industry experts from inside and outside HR. Mix in what's happening in people analytics today. Give them the technology to connect. Hit record. Pour their discussions into a beaker. Mix thoroughly. And voila, you get the HR Data Labs podcast, where we explore the impact of data and analytics to your business. We may get passionate and even irreverent, but count on each episode challenging and enhancing your understanding of the way people data can be used to solve real-world problems. Now, here's your host, David Turetsky.
Hello and welcome to the HR Data Labs podcast. I'm your host, David Turetsky. Today, we've been talking to a lot of people at the HR Technology Conference 2022 about a lot of really cool, interesting things around the worlds of HR data, analytics, technology, and process. This one's special. This is my second boss ever and one of my best friends, as he says, business friends, Steve Brink, CEO of uFlexRewards. Steve, how are you?
Doing great, Dave. Great to be here. What an HR tech conference it's been.
Why would you say that, Steve?
It's been great. You would not believe. I mean, you've been here just to walk around and look at the different software. It's amazing to me the different types of software that's out there that's addressing all different problems and challenges that our clients have.
And I think what you mean by that is, given your history, because you've been in the HR technology space for 30 years?
A little more than that. You're showing my age there, bud.
I wasn't going to go to 40 years, but more than 30 years. This is exciting to actually see so much at the HR technology show that's trying to solve problems in HR.
Yeah. But, one of the things that we were just talking before we got on the air, and you talk about like pay and rewards and the like, and what's kind of surprising about is they're all various point solutions.
Yeah.
But there are few things that actually tie things together.
Yeah. So
they're fairly, what I call true point solutions, where they're disparate, disconnected systems.
Yeah.
They're not tying things together.
Yep.
And we were just talking earlier about, total rewards, right?
Yep.
Is that there's really nothing a lot out there about total rewards, which to me is low-hanging fruit.
Yep.
What better way to various ways of actually how you reward talent is that tying those together so you get a bigger and larger picture, a true picture of the total rewards and all the different ways that you actually compensate your employees.
And Steve's coming at it this way because he's the CEO of uFlexRewards, right?
Yes.
Which does total rewards.
Okay, I know. A little self-serving there. That was a commercial announcement.
Yes. This is our commercial part of the podcast. But Steve, people may know you, they may not know you. Give a little bit about your background, and then one fun thing that no one knows about you.
Interesting. So actually, I was early in my career, actually did a lot of economic analysis for telephone rate cases. So all the statistical analysis in rate cases when, especially divestiture, telephone companies at that time were able to go more market-based price. Yeah. If you heard that before.
No.
And then, so I actually was integral in developing some software to model and simulate the telephone industry based on different prices and what the impact is in terms of optimize pricing. Right. So the CEO at the time actually went and said, Steve, we got to do something about this HR, and asked me to go over there. And actually, I ended up learning as much as I can about rewards and pay, and develop the first compensation planning software on the market.
Wow,
and
cool.
And that was with the Integral Systems was really the one that actually was driving that. And at the time, that was what Dave Duffield was the CEO. And if you know Dave Duffield, Dave Duffield, on the left, he founded PeopleSoft, went on Workday, etc. And so I sort of had familiar with Dave when before PeopleSoft, a long time ago.
1970?
No, 1987 actually. Yeah.
I was still in college rooting.
No, thank you.
Rooting for Penn State at that point. Yeah. Go Lions. So
now, let's not talk about ageism because it is a true thing. It's like, as you know, I have gray hair, as you can see, which people cannot see. A little bit, a little sparkling. But anyway, it's funny how people react and say, when they ask me to plug in. I was doing a presentation today. I brought my PC, I pulled it out, and then say, let me help you so you can plug it in. I said, okay, I got that. It's like everybody thinks that just because you're old, you don't know how to use the computer. It's like, come on, I'm not that bad.
Well, no,
anyway.
They're not that bad, but there are a lot of people who do need a lot of help.
Yeah. Okay.
But now let's go talk about the one thing that no one knows about you.
Well, I thought the first.
Oh, I thought that was your
planning-
background. Oh, well,
I combined them.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
So anyway,
that's useful.
Well, one thing, we had done this before. One thing.
I'm a repeat customer here, so.
Yeah, I know. You have to. So now I've got multiple things. So
yeah, there we go.
What one thing? I got State Player of the Week in football, in high school football, my senior year for all of the state of Texas in 1 week.
That's incredible.
And our team actually went into played in the semifinals against Eric Dickerson, who went on to be the NFL Hall of Fame. Anyway, that's kind of a strange thing. Awesome. I don't know why that popped in my head. But I guess I'm going to see my son play college football this weekend. That's probably why it popped in.
That is so cool.
So anyway,
so the genes are strong with this one.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like I didn't play college. I went to high school. He's done much better. He's a good athlete.
Yeah, well,
got it from his from the other side
mother's
here,
side.
from the mother's side. Yeah,
it's okay. So, Steve, let's talk about 2022 and 2023. What surprised you about 2022? What did you learn in 2022? What did you expect in 2022 from a compensation perspective, compensation management, compensation technology, or the market itself? What happened in 2022 that kind of surprised you? Let's start with that.
Hi, I'm Stephen Rothberg.
And I'm Jeanette Leeds.
And together, we're the co-hosts of the High Volume Hiring Podcast.
Are you involved in hiring dozens or even hundreds of employees a year? If so, you know that the typical sourcing tools, tactics, and strategies, they just don't scale.
Yeah. Our bi-weekly podcast features news, tips, case studies, and interviews with the world's leading experts about the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to high volume hiring.
Make sure to subscribe today.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, where do you begin? At first, I was going to start. You're going to sing "In the Year 2525," which is a song from the '60s. I was like, golly, you're going to kind of scare me, which we're approaching pretty quickly. 25, if man is still, anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, and so the interesting thing I think in terms of overall is just the whole war on talent,
yep.
and how people are struggling hiring the right talent. And there's been a shift in terms of, the whole future of work. And I'm not going to beat that thing. But, where you're needing talents differently, it's going to be different in the future. And so how do you attract them? And it just it's been interesting is that, we're talking to one, just to kind of show what people are starting to think outside the box,
right.
Is that this Bay Area software company is that they do total reward statements. What they want to do, though, because they offer a lot of personalization and flexibility, they actually want to bring it over and actually have total reward statements for candidates. Think about this.
So it's a modeling of what they're going to be.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's great.
Think about, because what typically when you go hire somebody, Dave, I don't know about you, I probably do a bad job at this, but I tell them their salary and bonus, right? And then all of a sudden, here's our handbook or here's our website to go to and actually
then go figure out.
Yeah, exactly.
Is,
But this one, it allows them to actually model and where they can actually customize.
Yeah.
And they really see that as a differentiator, and I believe them. So that's what the competition is doing, and I think there's going to be this great kind of awareness of thinking outside the box on what better ways to attract, retain, and motivate people. And this one is in terms of talent acquisition.
So let me put it into two perspectives, though, because I think it's a phenomenal idea. One, there's pay transparency that's being kind of forced on companies, whether you're talking about Colorado, New York City, or California soon. And Illinois is a different issue, but we'll talk about that later. But when you're talking about certain states are forcing companies to say, this is what your base pay opportunity is. What you're talking about is taking it to the next level and giving them the opportunity to understand, look at what you do today and wherever you are, but think about, here's what you could get if you come to us, and here's what we would be offering you for everything, very well spelled out.
Exactly right, Dave. I think that's one of the cooler things, and I just think what people are thinking outside the box, you're not costing anything more. Right. So you're just kind of setting it up a more competitive advantage to actually look at your recruiting in a better light than anybody else.
Well, you're serving, and the second thing I was going to go to is information is getting to be ubiquitous now. Yep. We're able to, and I don't mean ubiquitous from the perspective of everybody's the same. I mean, you can get data on pretty much any company by either going to Glassdoor or PayScale or Salary.com or any other of these sites. But what you're saying is that why force them to go do the extra work?
Exactly.
Let's give it to them as being an employer choice. Let's tell them what they could get if they come to us.
Exactly. But you go to Glassdoor, it's pretty much like salary and maybe the bonus potential.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
What about all the benefits and everything,
Absolutely.
all the allowances?
Right.
And there's companies that are getting really creative by offering things, whether it's student, we all know student loan situation is really challenging for,
sure.
but doing some student loan reimbursement, program or whatever that people can opt out saying, okay, I don't, I want to trade this benefit for this because that's where I am.
Yeah.
But why offer that then one size fits all? It's not, right?
No.
It's that being able to do that. What's important, because it's about my interest, my career, my reward.
Yeah.
Why not facilitate that process with them?
Well, and maybe the problem is that they feel like there's so much then that the current employees might be jealous of, unless they're actually getting the same treatment.
Right, but exactly, that's the total reward, right? In each way, and that's the paid transparency.
Right.
You're putting paid transparency to your advantage, right?
Yeah,
and
you're making it all out there.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem, is that some companies are so afraid of opening everything up. One of the reasons why is because they don't have it all in a consumable format from different viewpoints. And some of it just doesn't make any sense because it was all, we've done it this way forever because.
Right.
And they haven't thought through. So do you think they actually have to go through renovation to have this happen and fix their pay policies? Or can they just go with what they have now and the communications will solve itself?
Dave, we both run businesses in the past.
Yep.
And so we always start, I think, in terms of the business strategy.
Sure.
And so your total reward strategy needs to be in the context of that business strategy. Just because and that's why I always get frustrated a little bit by benchmarking, because you're benchmarking against people that have different business strategies, right? And so with your business strategy is that what kind of total reward strategy that's going to drive and meet your business strategy, and think outside the box in terms of between your two ears versus between two lines of source code that some technology prevents you from administering those type of things.
Sure.
So why not open it up and say, hey, if I were to craft now my total reward strategy based on our business strategy, would it be the same thing it is today? I would say
probably
no.
I don't. I think because business strategy changes so fast.
Yeah. Now you got the whole change management issues and those type of things. But if that's aligning and it's going to align better to what you're trying to achieve, doesn't that make sense? And that's where the whole business acumen, in terms of where we need to be tied more in our profession, we need to think about that a lot more than I think we have before. Because it's like, we've always done it this way, so we need to keep on doing it. Make some changes. Oh, market price, we got to increase it 5% or whatever. It's like, wait a minute, let's take a step back.
But there's a lot of friction in constantly evolving your process, because processes and policies take time for change management. It takes time to actually develop them, but it takes time for change management implementation. And then are we talking about having a constantly evolving compensation strategy?
Well, I don't think your comp changes like every single day, right? But
your business strategy
but I do
changes often.
No, not as much as you think. There's tweaking over time, which then tweaking would actually matter, and I agree with.
Yeah.
But I've always said, a goal without a plan is a dream, and so if your goal is
that yours? Did you actually come up with that yourself?
Or I read it somewhere and it's put in my mind, and now I think it's mine.
Well, you are a brilliant guy, so you could have brought it. That was copyright Steve Brink, 2022.
No, but what I mean by that is that if you maybe can't do it overnight,
sure,
but then if you have the goal that you want to actually match it, and then there's chunks that you can change,
right,
and you have a plan to do that. This year we're going to focus on this because that's in the arching,
right,
and we're going to do this and this.
Right.
So again, as long as you're as long as you're going toward that business strategy, who might be changing, I'm using my hands on the radio. It doesn't make sense.
Podcast
but
Steve's
anyway,
actually looking like he's salmon swimming upstream.
No, exactly. So, but you want to aim ahead, right?
Yes.
Where it's going, and be able to do that. Where do we want to be? What do we want to be as an organization from our total? What do we want to stand for?
Right.
What do we want to show people of pay transparency? Do we want what kind of payer do we want to be?
Right.
Let's put it out
you can
there.
talk about pay transparency. You can actually do it, right?
Yeah.
And the proof is in actually getting it done and proving to people that your words turn into actions.
Correct.
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking subscribe. This podcast is made possible by Salary.com. Now, back to the show.
So then let's transition a little bit to, I guess that was what surprised you about 2022. What did you learn in 2022?
I learned that personally, I think like actually this is going to go off tangent on comp, but I think mental health is a real issue. I really believe that. And I think we need to do more either as organizations or whatnot to be able to support that in different ways. And I think that's a serious issue for future of companies. And I know companies are starting to address that definitely, but I think it's a real serious issue for our talent that we need and the like, and whether that's changing. We've always had, I know I'm going to get way on a tangent, Dave, but we have 5-day work weeks since when? Since 1910 or whatever, in terms of the laws. Does it really work in terms of the 5-day, 8 hours a week? What's been really beneficial, in terms of this remote work, and it's like, again, hey, let's have an output standard, not an input standard,
right?
And we changed that. And I know some companies are experimenting with 4-day work, which I think is great.
Yep.
And I think there's ways that we can actually do that. To me, is part of reward as well, and a differentiator as well, is that can address mental health in different ways. I mean, it's this, you used to plug in, all of a sudden, and you probably key punched, is that you go into work and you put your statement in there, boom, and you click, and it's like 9:01.
The
you
time
entered
card,
the time. Exactly.
Yeah.
Be able to do it, and you punched out. And it's like,
and by the way, what were those things? They were punch cards. They weren't time cards. They were really punch cards
exactly,
from back in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm that old too, Steve.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But to your point, though, and I think it's a very important thing to bring up. We've talked about mental health on the HR Data Labs podcast, not just because I'm nuts, but because it's really important to make sure that people understand you're taking care of them.
That's right.
And you mentioned before about the total reward statement that you give a new hire. Well, one of the things that would be amazing from the moment they're a candidate, on candidacy. Yeah, I apologize. It was from candidacy. But as a candidate, to know that you are going to be taken care of, whether or not you are mentally healthy. We always go on interviews and they assume that they're looking at you like, is this person nuts? The answer is, we're all nuts. We're all crazy. Degrees. Right, exactly. And the interview process shouldn't be about your mental health. It should be about your ability, as you say, for the output. And we have to be very careful right now and make sure that we're taking care of the people with different abilities, especially when it comes to mental health. And from the moment that they decide that they want to pursue candidacy with your company, it would be really cool to know that.
Yeah.
And know that they'd be taken care of, whether they're having a great day, or they're having a shitty day, or every day of their life is a challenge.
Right. Couldn't have said it better, Dave. You're exactly right.
All right. Well, so we're going to drop the microphones and walk away now. Thank you, everybody. Welcome. Take care. Bye. Just kidding. So, Steve, we've talked about what you've learned. We've talked about what surprised you. What did you expect for 2022?
In terms of what I expect for the rest of 2022, or are you talking about
in total? What did you expect coming into 2022? What do you expect for the rest of it? We already talked about what surprised you. We already talked about what you learned. What did you expect? What do you think was going to happen?
What I expect is sort of happening. It's like the talent actually has more power over, not over, but they have more leverage than they've ever had before.
Right.
And I think that's driving some change. And I think it's driving some positive change because companies are having to adapt to that to actually attract and retain and motivate their talent. And I know I'm looping back around, but that whole, whether it's pay transparency, whether it's flexibility, whether it's personalization, all those type of things, in terms of that's what we're talking about. It's forcing companies to think differently, which I think is a good challenge to be able to do that. And so, because you want to get the right talent, you're not going to be successful as a business if you don't have the right talent.
No.
Geez, how many, like right now, it's like, oh my gosh, you go to restaurants. I know some restaurants that only do takeout now.
Yeah, because they can't hire people.
They
can't hire people.
What's up with
and
that?
By the way, that's not about hiring the right person. They can't hire anybody
to come to work for them.
Right. Yeah. Because hiring rates are through the roof for unskilled work, and for skilled work, and they either can't afford it or they literally can't find people.
Yeah. And that's where, and that's where I think in terms of whether it's what you're going to see more is that the whole learn and development function, which we see a lot of new software here, being able, how do you upskill people? Is that I know, IBM is hiring people instead of having them going to college, which is really expensive.
Yeah.
It's just hiring people out of high school.
Yeah.
And I'll train you how to program. If you have these certain competencies, I'll tell you that, I'll teach you how to program. So why spend a fortune? It's like those kind of things. It's like you're tapping into resources differently because you want to get the talent and train them yourself to the way you want to do it,
Which is a paradigm shift from everybody's got to get a 4-year degree.
Correct.
In the skilled labor world.
That's right.
They got to get a 4-year degree. They got to get really good grades in the 4-year degree. And we're going to hire the best and the brightest, and they have to start day one and be completely productive.
Yep.
And we're going to pay them through the nose.
Yep.
Well, or we're going to pay them nothing, actually. But now, a smarter idea is, as you say, hire bright people who have capability and then mold them into what you need them to be based on the need of the day.
Yeah.
Or skill them.
Yeah. And you can then show, pay transparency is just not sharing the pay as it is now, but what is the future pay? So being able to, we in the past there's always those step pay or whatever.
Sure.
If you're hiring people earning, you're going to say, hey, I'm going to train you and this is where your salary starts. But when you reach this level of skills, we're going to pay you this much, and this much.
Exactly.
And so they can actually see oh my gosh, I'm going to get rewarded as I grow. And it's kind of almost circular potentially where that might happen, Now,
I know this is going to sound maybe rude to earlier generations, but if you got used to getting paid because you developed a new skill, then it does become Pavlovian that the next time you developed another skill, you're going to want to get paid for it. Not the kind of entitlement methodology of, hey, I'm working year after year after year, just keep paying me more because I'm here and I keep producing. But wouldn't it be cool to have a different paradigm about pay of instead of paying just because the clock changed, we're paying people differently and more based on what they actually do to impact the company?
Yeah, I'll take it a step further is that, let's say we have a 3% merit budget. How many people will wake up in the morning saying, oh, I got a 2.5 or I got a 3.2% increase and I'm more motivated than I was before, right? In terms of that, instead of getting a 3%, I got a 3.5%. I'm more motivated, right? It's not so that I'm not, whether it's any generation to me, is that kind of merit increase is that are you, whether it's cost inflation or whatever you want to put to that, is it really about what value are delivering to the client, to the company, and then actually say, but to do that, you got to gain skills. Right. So it's kind of shifting that, and it's like the whole benchmark process could be blown up.
Hey, are you listening to this and thinking to yourself, man, I wish I could talk to David about this? Well, you're in luck. We have a special offer for listeners of the HR Data Labs podcast. A free half-hour call with me about any of the topics we cover on the podcast or whatever is on your mind. Go to salary.com/HRDL consulting to schedule your free 30-minute call today. Is that a prediction for the future, or is that something you see that might be happening in the shorter term? I mean, obviously IBM is doing it right now, but
no, I don't know. I don't know the pay if they're doing that. The step.
No, I know, but
it's not.
It's not a long putt to think that once they get skilled, they're going to.
You would think. You would think.
Yeah, because we've done that in the past with compensation programs. Is that once you achieved a certain skill or competency, you got paid more for it if you were being asked to do it.
Yeah.
So is that something though that you would hope or you would see that being the future of compensation?
The answer is yes. I don't know what he says. Is that I do think in terms of that shift.
By the way, that was a softball, Steve. But
it's the shift away from that just ever increasing fixed cost,
right?
But shifting that to kind of say, well, there's got to be a quid pro quo.
Exactly.
Now this whole loops around. What about hiring and this kind of thing? But if you're paid transparency and you need certain skill sets, either you develop it internally, right, and they're going to get paid that way, or you're going to hire externally to be if you can't train somebody to do it, right?
Right.
And so it starts breeding itself, right?
Yeah.
And you're getting away from that, again, about the motivation of a 2% merit budget or whatever. No. Is it really a driver of behavior?
No, it becomes an entitlement.
Right, yeah.
And we all know what entitlements are. people think that they deserve it just because.
Because I've been here this long, and
I've been here this long, yeah. But they don't think about the fact that their 2% or 3% has compounded since they've started.
Yeah.
And if they actually looked at the math, because they had a graph that showed them how it would go from their beginning pay all the way up through how many years they've been there, they would see about how much the company's actually invested in them over time in low inflation periods as well as in high inflation periods.
Yeah. I mean, time is not an event. Right? An event is you learn a new skill.
Right.
I'm in a new role. I've changed roles. I've upskilled. I have different competency, whatever. That's an event. Event of just doing what you're doing, that's great. That's a value, but does it really need to actually be there? But again, it could be increased because, again, you can't get that talent. You don't want to lose somebody. Right. So there's still that old element there of actually having people. They might get paid because of market conditions as opposed to time.
I remember a long time ago we would talk about and debate the anniversary date increase versus the annual event, right? The annual merit increase process. And we said, well, in terms of being able to solve for your budget, it's better to do the annual event rather than anniversary, because at the end of the year, if someone got hired in December and there was no budget left, they got screwed. So I guess what we're saying is that change that process, or think about changing that process to be, instead of on an annualized merit event, we do it based on when someone achieves a new skill, gets a new assessed skill, has a certification.
Yes,
other
if
things.
somebody got that in 6 months versus a year, why wait a year?
And by the way, encourage them to get more skills,
right? So
they get more increases, so they can become more valuable to you.
Yeah. The only flip on that is, from a business perspective, are they just gaining skills just to get paid more, and the company doesn't necessarily need that skill?
Well, that's a different story.
So
that's a different story. I think that's
I remember did an HR project way back when, and they had I won't tell the company, but the company's philosophy was they would move people around. You'd go to and to get promoted, you had to move around fairly quickly. Right. So you'd come into a role, you'd blow up and want to make a lot of changes, and then leave to go to another promotion to role. But then you didn't stick with that leadership role because again, you changed. You didn't see it through all the changes. So somebody else would come out of the mess, and they would change things back.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, so it caused quality issues in their production and other things. And so we got to watch out, from those behaviors. But I do think it's definitely possible how we can set up a program to definitely address that.
And you know what it takes? Approval. Just getting your manager's approval to get that extra certification.
Oh, no.
Well, I mean, but no, seriously, that enables you to make sure that they're paying for a skill that's required in that job. But
that's where the whole career ladders and that career progression and where you can go and what you need to do, that people can see what they can be, and that's laying out. Not a lot of companies do that, right?
But that's also transparency.
Exactly. That's exactly you stole my line.
I'm sorry.
So anyway, no, that whole transparency of being able to show growth in an organization and skill or upskilling is really an important element to actually that transparency of where you can go in the organization. How many people say, well, I don't know where I can go?
Everybody says that.
Yeah.
Because we haven't published the descriptions and the career ladders and other things to enable them to understand that. Right. And by the way, when they go to their manager to ask them, what's the manager say? I don't know. Go to HR.
Yeah, I know. Exactly.
So, Steve, what do you think about the future? We've talked a lot about the past. We've talked about 2022. Where are rewards going?
Personally, I think it was an old song, "The future's so bright and you need to wear shades." I think in terms of reward for the reward professionals, I think we're in a niche now that we can be more creative than we've ever been before to really address the challenges that we face on trying to acquire talent. How do we motivate people, and how do we retain talent in different ways?
Sure.
And think outside the box and get more creative, instead of saying, like you were saying before, well, we've always kind of done this way. Is that being able to change that? So I see that as a cool function. Yeah. I'm not in here just to kind of say, I just want to keep on doing what we're doing.
Right.
No, let's get creative.
Right.
Let's get excitement. Let's make a positive people impact.
Right.
Steve,
as always, it's a pleasure talking to you.
Same here, Dave. Always great to talk to you.
Thank you very much for being on the podcast yet again.
Cheers.
Take care and stay safe.
That was the HR Data Labs podcast. If you liked the episode, please subscribe. And if you know anyone that might like to hear it, please send it their way. Thank you for joining us this week, and stay tuned for our next episode. Stay safe.